Hey everyone, welcome to Buzzing About Romance. I am Becky, and I am super excited to be joined for this episode by Heather. Hi, Heather.
Hello, Becky.
And Lindsey. Hey, Lindsey.
Hello.
I just want to check in with everyone. How is your reading going? My reading for the last 6 weeks, a mess. A complete mess. I'm really struggling. I don't know that I'm going to hit my year-end goal.
I am a mess as well. Nothing is, there's good stuff, but it's taking me a long time to finish.
Yeah.
I'm not reading a book a day anymore, which is sucky.
Yeah, I'm not reading a book a day. I'm reading a lot. I've been really disappointed with most of the books that I've read. I've been really disappointed with most of the books that I read, and the one that I had to pick, I had to go back a long way to find a book that I thought was worthy of book of the week. I think I went back to like August.
Ugh.
Because I've already recommended everything else. I had to reread a lot.
Wow.
Do you know what, though? For the last month, picking a book of the week has been a struggle for me also, just because things are just 3-star. It's good. It's just not, I haven't had that exceptional suck me in, I can't wait to talk about this book moments lately. And I did try some newer to me authors that have hit better than some of my tried and true authors. But I will say there is a book coming out later this month by an author we adore, which is my book of the week, that y'all need to have on your TBRs.
My book of the week, I'm just going to say, is very on brand for this episode.
Okay.
Mine is not. Mine is not on brand for this episode at all.
Okay.
That's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay.
We like it a little bit like that. So this week I'm going to skip our term of the week because we actually are going to give some definitions within our discussion. But for this episode of Buzzing About Romance, we are talking about romantic suspense. It's been a while since we talked about it, so it's time to deep dive into the whodunit of romance. Now, previously, Leah and I think Heather and Rachel were on that episode. We did the unexpected protector. And then Heather, Rachel, and Leah drafted their ultimate security force. So on this episode, though, I don't think people realize. So some people look at romantic suspense and automatically only think security force, right?
Yeah.
But there actually are other parts of romantic suspense that we don't often talk about. So we are going to try to cover it all to the best of our ability. And hopefully we'll give you some book recs. So if you want to try out some areas that you've never tried out before, we'll have some books for you to try. Heather, you want to read everyone what the definition of romantic suspense is?
So it is the constant threat of danger, which is evident throughout the story, as at least one of the protagonists is in direct danger. So the lives of family members and or friends may also be at stake. Much of the suspense comes from the antagonist who threatens the couple's love and lives simultaneously.
So lots of things. So if we think about some of our favorite tropey subgenres, like mafia romance, that actually falls into romantic suspense.
Definitely. And I feel like this is where close and forced proximity sometimes get messy in this subgenre.
And if you follow me as Bookcase and Coffee on Instagram this week, I kind of had a little bit of a force versus close proximity meltdown.
I was going to say temper tantrum, so meltdown is a good term.
Well, I was scrolling through IG and an author put books of mine that are forced proximity. And it was a slide, so she had multiple slides. It was 5 books. All were roommates that she labeled as forced proximity. And I'm like, cheese and freaking rice. It is not. But I would like you, Heather, to applaud my restraint.
I was very proud of you
I
that
did
you
not
handled it.
comment on that author. I didn't tag that author on my post and be like, shit, bitch, this is what forced is.
FYI, lady. No. But I think, some people, it doesn't matter to them, right?
No.
And then there are other people who are like, well, I sort of want to be informed about what I'm reading. So it's information for readers.
I think a lot of lines are getting blurred because it's convenient and you can add it to the little TikTok-y videos where they're like this trope and this trope and this trope and this trope. And I think like a lot of the lines blurring are a big pet peeve of mine because my expectations going into a book are often not being met and I'm left like, WTF were you even thinking writing this? Like, this is not aligned with the tropes that you sold me on. And then I'm really irate and I'm never going to freaking read your book again. So good job on the marketing, guys. Good job.
There are going to be in 2024 some upcoming episodes where we are going to talk about what true enemies to lovers is versus rivals and adversaries. And we also will have an episode about what exactly is forbidden and taboo. We are going to do an episode because, again, like force and close proximity, I think taboo and forbidden get a little mushy. And they're not the same.
And to be fair, not a lot of people like to talk about that because it's still sort of like,
It's okay.
Yeah.
We'll do it. We'll take the hit and do it. Okay, so when we have a romantic suspense, there is a structure you can expect in the book. And for a lot of us who read romantic suspense, there is comfort in this structure.
Oh, for sure.
Lindsey, do you have your doc up? You want to read this, what the structure is?
In good romantic suspense, at least one of the protagonists is in danger, or someone she or he loves, like a sibling or child, is in danger. And the love story builds at the same time that the hero and heroine confront escalating jeopardy until both the suspense and the romance reach a crescendo that leaves the mystery.
So I think it's fair to say in the majority of romantic suspense, we are not going to see third act breakups.
Correct.
And I know that makes both of your little hearts incredibly happy.
Yeah, but you are going to see a freaking kidnapping. Hell yeah.
There's always
Lindsey is team kidnapping.
There's outside forces that cause like drama, so to speak, right? It's not internal, which I think is why I like this. There isn't always a bunch of internal or like relationship drama. It's sort of like the outside world.
Yeah. I also think that within romantic suspense, it is a way to create miscommunication and make it digestible. Because you're like, oh, there's danger. So, of course, you can't communicate clearly in danger. Your human instincts, fight or flight, take precedence. And therefore, communication is a back-end concept.
Yeah, but I really love, like, the thing I love most about these is that, like, almost every single one, you wind up in a situation where they have to have a foundation of, like, trust and fairly decent communication between the two of them as like they're navigating the situations. And I really love that like the romances tend to develop pretty quickly. Like they're much faster paced romances. I wouldn't say insta love, but a lot of insta connection. And then you also have pretty much right off the bat, like some kind of trust building block, which gives them a really strong foundation to start from. So when you don't have that third act breakup, it's just like the whole trial that they're going through in the romantic suspense storyline just builds a really freaking solid HEA.
I agree, because if they can survive that, if they can survive a stalker, a kidnapping, a murderer on the loose, or whatnot, the danger, if they can survive that, then their HEA will survive, right?
Right.
Maybe we should test that theory on our marriages. Just kidding. Just kidding. Um,
We've had 2 toddlers, so it feels sort of like a hostage situation sometimes.
we have
And
a
I have
puppy.
2 teenagers.
We have a puppy right now. It's testing
Mm-hmm.
all of our proximities. Um, 4 factors that must be in a book for it to be considered romantic suspense. And I am not going to, I'm not taking any leeway on these. These absolutely have to be in there. You have to experience these factors in order to categorize a book as romantic suspense. So, reader empathy. We have to understand, we have to feel. So, you should have, when reading a romantic suspense book, a good one, you should have some really big feels, right?
Yep.
Reader concern. I should be concerned for the safety of something or someone.
Correct.
Impending danger and escalation of tension. So I need to know early on what the danger is in the book. Do they have a stalker? Is this a matter of they tripped over a body and now the murderer is coming after them? And then I need the escalation of tension. It needs to, I want intensity in my romantic suspense.
There needs to be that I want to turn the page because I need to know what's happening, but I'm also a little nervous to know what's happening. Like you're stuck in the middle, but you like just kind of have to know. So you just keep going.
Some of them, like sometimes when they add like these little blurbs, like Susan Stoker will do this with her antagonist sometimes, where you get like a brief segment from their perspective, and it gives me chills. Like these psychopaths that they're writing, it legitimately gives me chills because of how like intensely well the writing is done.
Kennedy L. Mitchell does the same thing. She's famous for just like plunking you in to like the antagonist's brain. And you're just like, you're in it. You're like, oh my God, what's happening? It's amazing.
So do you like that third person coming in and having insight into their obsession or their motive or their moving forward? Because Nora Roberts does this too, where you will have random chapters that are her. Now she writes in third person past tense. But you will get insights into her villains.
I do like it.
I like it too, but I don't have to have it. Like, I think the reason that I like the way like Susan does it or Kennedy is because they just do it well.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do it well.
Yeah. And it's a right moment. Like it's really about timing. And I think like a lot of them wind up doing it at about the same time as the third act breakup, where they've left so many breadcrumbs, and it could be like you're starting to get to the point where you're like, okay, I think I have a really good hunch it's this person that is the problem. And then all of a sudden she's like, here you go. Here's who the antagonist is. And they present it in such a way that it sets up really well for like the next phase of tension, like the climax of the story. And I love it when it's done that way in particular.
Okay.
Yeah, I am thinking about one that like Kennedy L. Mitchell wrote, and she sort of led you to believe that it was one person, and you were like, oh, and then there comes like you're all like, yes, it was this person. And then all of a sudden you're in it and you're like, ooh, I don't think it was him. It was good.
So do you like that in your romantic suspense? Do you like those red herrings that lead you kind of astray from the main and you're like, I know it, I see it? Or do you like that, within the first 3 or 4 chapters, you're like, I know who it is. I got it. I'm in this, but I got it.
I like both. I like all of it. As long as there are breadcrumbs, I'm happy. Yeah, I think I like it when they at least give you breadcrumbs so that you can kind of guess. I don't care if I'm right or wrong. I love a good plot twist.
I like a good plot twist. I had a situation, and I adore her books. Carrie and Ryan, in the last book in her Montgomery Legacy, she added this kidnapping at the end. And you kind of knew there was some tension in a stalker. Sort of. You knew there was bad blood from the heroes. He lost his girlfriend during childbirth. He was now a single dad. And you knew there was tension between the lost girlfriend's parents and him. And something was happening with the heroine, but you didn't quite know what. And you just kind of assumed it was the parents sending her hate. But it ends up, there's a kidnapping, and it ends up being this person. And honestly, as I read that book, it felt like it came out of left field. And I actually emailed her and I'm like, Carrie Ann, you got to give me more breadcrumbs, sister, because this out of left field stuff, I'm lost. And she's like, you really felt like it was left. So then she sent me highlights as to where there were clues. And I'm like, I missed all of those.
That's too funny. I also love that.
She's like, I love you too, but you missed this, this, and this. And I'm like, oh, okay.
That makes me love Carrie even more.
What,
Like,
that she
if that
calls
were
me out on
even
my shit?
possible. I just love her so much.
I do too.
So, like, I have A.L. Jackson down as one of the authors that does, like, non-law enforcement or military romantic suspense. And a lot of hers is, like, you're not necessarily in the dark about who the antagonist is. You know it's, like, from their past, but their pasts are causing, like, driving the suspense and tension. So that is really intense, too, because she layers a ton of emotional trauma on top of, like, the suspense element.
And see, so we're going to get to this here because there's basic suspense, which is going to be your detectives, your law enforcement, your security forces, and your bodyguards, right? Those are going to be your basic suspense stories. When you think suspense, these are going to be some of your automatic picks. But then there are actually some other subcategories of suspense. We have thriller, which is sometimes where dark or mafia romances, some of these series, like the Mindfuck series, that would fall under a thriller romance, meaning it's going to be a little bit more like a romance happening in the middle of a horror movie. And then there is mystery, and I think A.L. Jackson writes more mystery romances than she does just basic suspense. Now, and I think Catherine Cowell's the same way. She and Catherine both sometimes will have a small town cop. Not so much A.L. Jackson. Catherine always has a small town cop. But there is kind of a little bit of a gradient and a difference. And then also we sometimes see the unexpected detective. So it would be similar to like the non-detective romances where they are solving a mystery or a murder together, but neither one has a law enforcement background. So this would be something similar to like Janet Ivanovich's Stephanie Plum books. She's an unexpected detective. You don't expect this foolish, bumbling Jersey girl to be solving murders and heists and stuff. And that's the other thing. I don't think we get enough romantic suspense with heists.
No.
I agree.
Oh, wait. We do have that one Sawyer did.
Yes.
In the Codename series.
But don't we need like a jewel thief or an art thief?
Yeah, Codename Heist. Yeah, we do need that stuff. That stuff is good.
Yeah.
Wait,
like
I think
Ocean's
we're about
11
to get one from Penny Reed. I think we're about to get one from Penny Reed because the Banana Pants book she's got coming out that is Greg and Fiona's daughter. I think she is pulling a heist and gets caught up somehow with Desmond.
It would be forced proximity if you were in a bank and the bank was being robbed and you fell in love with somebody in the midst of the robbery. That would be forced proximity. In case anybody was wondering.
Riley Edwards does have one that is a bank robbery. That is the 707. Freeing Jasper. Yeah, they know each other beforehand, but they wind up like the bank robbery winds up being the catalyst for their romance and the suspense.
So when you go into romantic suspense, so we have our subcategories. Basic suspense are the ones you automatically think of. And then there's thriller romances and mysteries. But as a reader, when you have somebody say to you, this is romantic suspense, what are your expectations of that book? What do you expect to find?
Like an alpha male for sure. Kind of like a toucher and die. I like a toucher and die vibe.
Yeah, definitely an alpha male, but the female main character usually has a very strong backbone. They're savvy, they're smart, they're not a damsel in distress, even if they are threatened in the situation.
So,
And history somewhere, like somebody has some trauma or somebody after them or something.
so we talked about
Yeah.
we expect big motions, but Lindsay, you said you don't expect to see a damsel in distress. And I guess I would expect to see a hybrid. Probably a little bit of a femme fatale with a damsel in distress. Like she'd
Yeah.
have to the ones I like, she's a combination of both, but I do think that a lot of romantic suspense we sometimes do get just especially in Bodyguard,
Mm.
they're damsels in distress. Don't you think sometimes?
I
think
don't
so. I don't read a lot of those.
I don't like when a heroine gives too stupid to live vibes.
Yeah.
Like, girl, why are you running back into the haunted mansion with the guy running after you? Like that, don't do that. That's stupid. Like, you know what I mean? In like cheesy like horror movies, they do that. Like I also hate when heroines do that. I'm sort of like, ugh, you're
But
so
don't you think
dumb.
we kind of get that a little bit? Not in all romantic suspense, and in none of the ones we're going to recommend because we don't
Right.
like it. But I do think I read one a couple years ago by Lisa Renee Jones. It's the one that she just had turned into a passion flick. And she's the like a sheltered daughter of a billionaire. She's on the run. She's running from something I can't remember. It's been a while. But she's totally too stupid to live. Like instead of like trusting in the guy that's protecting her, she, sheds everything and runs right into the arms of the antagonist. And it's like, come on, come on. Don't be dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the ones where the heroine is like smart enough to understand that she has to be a team player in order to survive.
Mhm.
Where they actually like one of the ones that sticks out to me is like Susan Stoker's um defending Morgan. She hides in a fish dumpster, a seafood fish dumpster, so that nobody will find her. Like that really is just disgusting. But to me, it's like, yep, that girl's gonna live because she understands the game here. Like she's not, she doesn't have to be told why she's doing stuff. Like she understands it and they do it and they work together. Like they're capable of not just being helpless.
I do find that Catherine Cowles sometimes her heroines are a little too stupid to live. Like, there's a murderer on the loose, and you're in the mountains, and you're gonna go hiking where there's no cell phone service. But don't worry, I'll be okay. No,
I
no.
don't think that was a pet peeve of mine because like you do not go hiking as a woman, period, regardless of whether or not there's a murder on the loose without telling somebody where you're at and how long you're gonna be there and where you're gonna be. Like, I don't know. That was a pet peeve of mine. I did like that series a lot. But yeah, that's just not safe.
Do you think romantic suspense needs to have law enforcement or former military people in it for it to be good romantic suspense?
No.
No. Mm-mm.
I agree. And I have struggled, and Heather and I've talked about it a little bit. I struggle a little bit a lot of times with the small town cop trope, and the cop heavy romances that we get sometimes in romantic suspense, just because I think that it fetishizes and romanticizes cops, and as we've seen, in real life, not all of them are great. And so I struggle sometimes with those. I also struggle with really heavy military romances. It starts to feel a little bit like men in uniform fetishization.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
will say what I do like about some of those men in uniform romances is that a lot of them will make cameo appearances in Virginia Beach, and it is really comforting to read them because I don't live there anymore. I can't go those places, but they will cameo like real places that I have been, and I love that. And I do like that about it though.
No, I think it's
One
okay
of
to like them. I just
Yeah.
sometimes wish that, like, I think there are certain authors that that's the only type of hero they know how to write in romantic suspense.
Mhm.
And I wish that they would break out and give us more unexpected detectives.
Yeah, I also like that some authors do a really good job of um, showing us that war changes people and that it isn't glamorous all the time and kind of what happens after. Right? I mean, some authors more than others are better at that, but I do sort of like how they
Yeah.
do that.
I did have an interesting, now I can't think of what book I was reading. It was very interesting to read a book where, oh, I know who it was. It was that Rebecca Rennick, that her favorite jack-o'-lantern, or my favorite jack-o'-lantern that
Mm.
I read. He was 6 years into the army, and he left at the end of his 6 year stint, and he came home without PTSD, without like huge emotional trauma. Like, his experience in the army was very positive, but he left because he missed his family and his family wanted him to come home. And he was a little directionless after high school. And I really enjoyed that because it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like rah military, but it also wasn't sometimes we read some of these authors and every single hero that comes out of the military is somehow damaged. And I think there
Yeah.
are some people that leave their military service that had good experiences.
Yeah, or we're at least ambivalent to it, right? Like
Yeah.
it was something I did, it was an experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it about romantic suspense that keeps you coming back?
Just grab my notes right here because I wrote a paragraph.
Okay, Lindsay, tell us your paragraph.
I'll just read it. A lot of my favorite authors write in this genre. Like I was thinking about it, and like almost 90% of my favorite authors are in the romantic suspense genre or have books in the romantic suspense genre. Um, they're like really reliably good because they are kind of formulaic. Like you know what to expect with the structure of these stories. So you get reliably with all of them the same structure. But then what they do is they make each story unique. Like there's some kind of unique element to each story that makes you just want to keep coming back because you're not getting the same story twice, even though the structure is the same. And then I talked about it earlier, like the two main characters, usually like the plot drives usually like the romantic suspense driving the plot, putting them together. Like they have to work past this threat. Like in a traditional romance, you have the main characters, they're working together to find like some kind of future, they're overcoming their past. But in romantic suspense, that entire like standard storyline is threatened. Like they are not guaranteed a future. They have to overcome the storyline in there to get to the possibility of that. And I really like that as well. Um I already talked about the trust and teamwork thing and how it just winds up with a really strong happily ever after. Like one of the things I talk about all the time is that I want a happily ever after. I don't want it to like at the end of the story, I don't want to drop the book and feel like, wow, I'm not sure they're actually capable of making this work. This is really shaky. Like you're never in that situation because you're like, wow, they overcame anything. Like the rest is a cakewalk. It's not, but you know, like they have the foundation to where you're absolutely certain that these people can overcome anything, and that's why I keep coming back to them because it's like it's just they build such strong relationships.
Okay.
Mine is probably a little more simple. I I don't love a lot of angst. And so especially like manufactured or like made up drama. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I feel like this isn't necessarily like romantic suspense isn't necessarily, I mean, obviously it's fiction. I get that. But it isn't like there's a reason for it. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
I know it makes probably no sense.
There's the outside force causing the angst. And
Correct.
actually, on the episode I did with Krista Sandor and Essie Rose, I actually listed the 8 types of angst. And they were like, I didn't know there were 8 types, which, again, after the first year, you can expect an episode from us talking about the different kinds of angst. But there is an angst about outside source angst. And I think that that's a lot easier to digest. It's more palatable because it's not humanity. Miscommunication is one of our human flaws, right? You know, overcoming trauma, expressing emotions, being a good communicator, all those kinds of things are part of our human flaws. But if there's a kidnapper, that's not our flaw. It's not our fault. There's not going to be necessarily like that introspection when you read it as emotional angst in other books.
Yeah, and for me, I feel like this genre is like very much separated from my regular life too. Like I'm just a boring teacher who lives in suburban Minnesota. You know what I mean? Like I kind of have this
You mean
boring,
Minnesota hockey
great
dad
life.
doesn't just have a gun in his waistband that he pulls out and
No,
saves you from a kidnapper?
no, and I don't have like a stalker or anything. So it's like such a separation, you know? I don't know.
Okay. Lindsay does go walking in the woods a lot, so
I do.
just saying.
I did today. I mean, I've done it like 5 times in the last week. So, yeah.
Do you ever walk around and go, Mr. Murderer, if you're here, leave me alone today?
Usually I make sure people know where I am and when I'll be back, though.
There you go.
If I'm going disappearing, they're going to know right away.
So when we first started buzzing about romance, you know, Leah came on and was like, I love romantic suspense. She's all about romantic suspense. And she'd say to me, hey, have you read this author? And I'd be like, yeah, I didn't love them. Or no, I haven't, or whatever. And she's like, you hate romantic suspense. And I don't hate romantic suspense. I just have really, really high expectations for romantic suspense. So oftentimes I am skeptical and when it comes to romantic suspense. And I always go in kind of dragging my feet because I do have these higher expectations of romantic suspense. So I don't often come back to it. It's one of those that I really have to desire it. And I also think it's a hard subgenre to binge. Like the same author over and over, you start to see their formula.
Some of them, yes. Like some of them, yes. And when they are that formulaic, it is, I agree, completely hard to read back to back to back. And yeah, a lot of the ones on my list are ones that I classify as formulaic. But then I also think you have ones like where their formula is the same, but then like Susan's Joker, every single one, like just for the Mountain Mercenaries, like each of those plot lines, there's an overall, like there's cookie crumbs throughout that lead to the final book, but each one of them is so unique. Like the plot line and the conflict is so unique itself that you don't feel like it's formulaic.
Yeah.
Even though it is, like, it's got the structure, but the story itself, like the first one, I'm just gonna spoil it right here for you now. The first one, Defending Allie, the guy is freaking insane. Like this one, just like I've never been able to get past this. The guy keeps women in cages, like a zoo, at the zoo. Like he collects them. Anyway, I'm sorry for the spoiler. I'm not. Like that's good romantic suspense right there because like chills just thinking about it.
But wait, this is the antagonist, not But he's not the hero that keeps the women in
No,
cages,
not
right?
No.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page.
I'm just saying, okay, this is what I'm saying though. Like, you're not going to get that in every single one of her books, but you're going to get something that's like equally crazy in its own unique way in all of her books. And it's like, it's so, each one is like so messed up that you're like, wow. Okay, read the trigger warnings, people. Read the trigger warnings. Like, just
Mhm.
don't go in blind if you have trigger warnings.
And read Mountain Mercenaries.
Yeah.
It was my first series by her, and I was like, oh my God, I love her.
That's so funny. Well, so like I read as they were releasing Catherine Cowell's Tattered and Torn, Tattered Stars series. And then I had done a backlist binge and done all of her Beautifully Broken and her Wrecked series. And then it came time to start her new series that she has out, her Whispers series that she has out right now. And as I was reading that first book, the characters felt the same. And the formula, how many pages we were going to read before we realized there was, a bad guy on the loose, and then he would be released on parole and stuff like that. And it started, I realized that I like her books, but I cannot binge read her series. Like, I need to do it, one book at a time, space in between, because, she has a pattern and a repetitiveness, and a lot of her characters are similar.
And there's also like a lot of emotional heaviness. The ones that I have trouble binge reading have a lot of that emotional heaviness in the books. Like her and A.L. Jackson, I would have a hard time reading all of them back to back.
I agree on it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree
Really
completely.
well written books. Some of my
So,
favorite books. Cannot read them back to back. It is a lot, which is good. I mean, the fact that they can pack that amount of emotion into a book is really good. But yeah, not back to back kind of books for me.
Janie Crouch has a Warrior Ranch one series, and that's pretty heavy. I can't binge it.
Can't binge those. So do you think that romantic suspense, more so than any other subgenre, has a more tendency to have a formula?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So more so than, say, Mafia, or Mafia can fall into sub, but more so than like a dark romance would have. So suspense has a more formula. It's more common in romantic suspense, do you think?
Yeah, and one of the things I like about it too is like while there is that formula, there's a limit to how many tropes you can pack. Like I was talking about this earlier, how it's a pet peeve of mine where they just layer on all the tropes now. They're not able to do that in romantic suspense. You could have a limit of what you can fit in that book before you're detracting from the plot. So yeah, it's formulaic, but then also there's a limit to how many like unique elements they can add to it. So it's not like you're going to get brother's best friend and like you may get brother like a couple of different tropes. So you're not going to have like the 8 trope long list in a lot of these books.
Okay.
So I think it is similar to Mafia, which is so funny because I love romantic suspense and I love Mafia, but I tend to look for specific tropes in Mafia, like arranged marriage, because that's like pretty formal, like, right?
Right.
Like they're forced to, like she has to marry him, they get married, they don't really like each other, and then all of a sudden they like each other. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. So maybe I need predictability in my life because
Well,
you know
I
what I
think
mean?
there's a comfort to formula. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to think whose it was. I read a romantic suspense a couple months ago, and the person who was the who done it, I felt like came out of left field. Like I did not see it coming, and I'm like,
Oh, Jiffy Kate, the what was it called? The bombshell in the brick wall.
yeah, the bombshell in the brick wall, or the brick wall and the bombshell, or whatever it was. Yeah, like I was like, what? Huh? Like it felt like out of left field, and I struggled a little bit with that. Like it just
I think the saving grace there was that it was a minor part to the plot,
yeah.
a very minor part to the plot. But yeah, I like more from my breadcrumbs. Like I don't like the character to be a surprise.
Yeah. I didn't like it either. I mean, I
Well,
like the story and I love Jiffy Kate. Do not get me wrong. But for that particular story, like the who done it piece, I was just like, meh.
well, the character, like the issue there is like the character was completely off the page. Like you didn't know the character at all until
Yeah, they
the
did their thing.
confrontation.
So,
And that's hard because I like to have some it's more palatable when you find out who it is, when there's breadcrumbs or some kind of like on-page discussion about who it could be.
yeah.
Like when there's no who it could be at all, like when they're not even in the list of who it could be, it's hard.
And I think that some plain contemporary romance, small town romances, might have a little bit of romantic suspense, like a little nugget of it, but it's not the main part of the story. And so therefore I wouldn't classify it as romantic suspense. And that's actually like my book of the week. There's, some drama that happens and it has like an antagonist who does some not good things, but it wasn't like a clear who done it. Do you know what I mean? Like you kind of
Right.
know who the bad guy is, but it led to some moments of suspense.
Yeah. I would classify it like we have talked about this many times before, but I would classify Claire Kingsley and Lucy Score's Bootleg Springs as like very romantic suspense light. There's the overarching mystery to the story, and that is a big part of like all of the books leading up to the last one. But it is like I would firmly classify those books as contemporary. I wouldn't classify them as romantic
Romantic suspense.
suspense at all.
Agreed. Okay, so we want to give you some of our favorite romantic suspense, either authors or titles. Not all of our recs will be law enforcement, military, or security recs. So I kind of broke mine down to mystery, non-detective romantic suspense, thrillers, and then law enforcement or military or security forces. If you didn't break yours down like that, guys, it's no big deal. We're just going to kind of go through these and share a little bit of what we have, but you can't use everyone as you can't use all military or security forces, Heather.
I'm not going to do that either. I did actually find alternatives for a lot of these. And then
Heathers are all going to be
I also
security
highlighted,
forces.
like, I also specifically called out, like, some representation.
That's okay.
Type picks. Anyway, not
Okay.
very many.
I'm just giving Heather a hard time. Heather, go first. Who's your first pick?
Well, I think QB Tyler has a bodyguard romance. I haven't had a chance. It's on my Kindle, but she never ever disappoints, and she has a bodyguard, and it's usually like an age gap and she's pretty steamy. So
She is pretty steamy.
And that's also sort of like protector romance. Like usually the guy is real protective of the heroine. Yeah, she does that well.
Okay, what do you got, Lindsay?
Brittany Zaheen, Falcon Falls Security. This is my overall favorite books that I read for the first time this year. I am going to specifically call out the Taken one, which has been recommended many times over. Gray is our Buzzing About Romance Man of the Year. And all I have to say is if you haven't read it yet, go download the audiobook. Aiden Snow narrates him. That's all you need to know. That's it.
Her covers are really great.
Why is it? Yeah, they are. But like, why is it not already on your Audible download? It is only on Audible, but it's Aiden Snow.
So I have to tell you, Lindsay, there's a quick chat coming out where we did her latest release. Amanda and we reviewed her latest release. I didn't love it.
I haven't read it yet. Is that the one she co-wrote?
No, this is the one that's her Montlake that just came out. It's the chef from the book that you and Leah did a quick shot on. And he's a chef and he doesn't cook in the whole fucking book.
What?
Yeah. Okay. So I am going to go with, this is a little unexpected, it's a little different. Minion Michael, she has a series that is called her Douglas Group, the Protector series. These are political and bodyguards. So they're former Secret Service and they move to this small town. Book 1, she is the daughter of the president, but she has a falling out with her parents, and he is her Secret Service guy at university, and some things happen. There's a big mystery. And that book is Freebird, and then it's Lone Wolf, which is A Marriage of Convenience. And I thought there was a third. I guess the third book isn't out yet for this series. So, but that's one. It's Freebird and Lone Wolf are.
Ooh, those sound great.
I really like her books. I read her hockey stuff, and I really did like this series. It had there's the is it called The Agent that's on Netflix, where he works in the room that takes the phone calls for the Secret Service? I don't know. Anyway, it kind of just has those vibes. It's a little bit of a mystery. Bodyguard, protector. I really like them. Okay, Lindsay, give us another rec.
I'm gonna do Rescuing Bryn by Susan Stoker. So Dane is ex-military. He's an amputee now living in remote Idaho. Bryn has Asperger's syndrome. I think the disability rep, or I guess just general representation, I don't like calling it a disability, it's really good with this one. It's not one of my favorite of her books, but I really love it. Like I kind of just love all of her books, to be honest. Their meet cute is I don't even know if you call it a meet cute. It's like they meet in the grocery store. He only goes to the grocery store at very specific times of night, and she like stocks the shelves a certain way to help him out because she sees him struggling, and then he's convinced she's a stalker. It's a whole big thing. It's just really good.
That's what do you got, Heather?
I have Striker. It is a Sentinel Security series. And these are, yes, they're former military or former cops.
And who's
but
the
it isn't
author?
all men. Oh, Anna Hackett. So it is not all men in the security team either.
Well, and she has a romantic suspense where they are treasure hunters.
Yes. So this one is, he's a hot British billionaire, and she goes into his company to try and find a former, like a rogue arms dealer. And so she's the badass and he's the billionaire. Love it. It is so good.
Okay. So recently, Amanda and I have started reading Sienna Snow. She has her Gods of Vegas and her Street Kings. And these are going to be thriller romances more so than non-detective romantic suspense. There are stalkers. There's some power plays involved in it. But these are absolute heroes that are kind of badasses. Like they just, there's just always lots of things at play. So, Sienna Snow, Gods of Vegas, and her Street Kings. Okay, Heather, what do you got now?
I think I've already talked about her, but I really, really love Kennedy L. Mitchell. Her writing is phenomenal, and she has multiple series. So she has a protection series, she has a power play series, which is like DC. She also has like a guarded like U.S. Marshals, and it's like small town that's in the In Clear Sight. The In Clear Sight series is amazing. They're marshals and they're like in the witness protection program, and it's a small town in Texas, and it's written very well. Love it.
What do you got, Lindsay?
I'm gonna do firefighter romance now. So Riley Edwards, she writes a lot of ex-military, but in her Next Gen series, she has two really good firefighter romances. The heroes are both firefighters. So Keeping Quinn, he's a firefighter, and then it's Jasper's daughter from the 707 series. And then the other one is Claiming Tuesday. So it's the two best friends that are firefighters, and Jackson is the firefighter in Claiming Tuesday. He's also one of the sons of the 707 in her series. So both of those, really like them.
So, an author that writes a lot of romantic suspense, and they're often non-traditional detectives, and she's, I don't know, I just adore her. Lexi Blake. She has her master's in mercenary, but she also has, We Did the Perfect Gentleman series that she wrote with Shayla Black. Shayla Black also has a lot of romantic suspense and former military security forces. Now, I know Heather doesn't read her because a lot of her stuff is duets. There's 2 books for each couple. But sometimes there's a menage. Shayla Black, yeah. She has lots of like, there's one where the woman is the madam of a bordello, right? That's the right word, right? In New Orleans, and she has a stalker, and these 2 guys come in and they save her, and it's part of her I think it's her Wicked Lovers series. Fantastic.
That's like my love language.
And she's like, they're like, could you stop wearing mini skirts? You can't run. And she's like, I'm not giving up my mini skirts. It's so funny. But I really like Lexi Blake and Shayla Black, and sometimes they write together, and it's kind of like, okay, this is a random thing, but I saw that Mary Carr, Lexi Blake, and Lila DuBois were like on a writing retreat together at Lila's, where she lives outside Napa Valley. And I was like, why can't I be at that writing retreat? Because Mary Carr and Lila DuBois have a security force menage series they write together.
And Lila, oh my gosh. And then she has that alphabet. Oh, okay.
Anyway, yeah. I just want to be best friends with those 3. Like, can I be best friends?
Can I also just say, like, Lexi Blake's stories in the romantic suspense genre, a lot of them are James Bond, like, movie name remakes or like
Jason Bourne.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's so clever.
Okay.
I found a mystery. I have a mystery series.
You have a mystery. Tell us, what is your mystery series?
Well, and obviously I can't do one episode without recommending a male series.
Okay, that's fine. Right? I mean, who are we even talking to?
So there is a series. It's called Safe Harbor. It is by Annabeth Alpert, and it is Albert. It is a 3-book series. The first one is Dad's Best Friend. The first guy is former military, but he's not in like the military force or anything. And then there's a crime podcaster, and he's like a forensic, like a crime scene investigator, but he was injured, and so he's now like disabled, and he's a professor, and there's this overarching mystery in this small town in Oregon. So it is called the Safe Harbor series. It's a 3-book series in Kindle Unlimited. It's amazing.
Okay. What do you got, Lindsay?
So Cozy Mysteries, Penny Reid's Engagement and Espionage and Marriage and Murder. Those are less romantic suspense, I think,
But Cozy Mystery would fall under...
Yeah, but I don't, like, so what I like about them, they're not the main story. They're like a subsequent story from characters that have already got their HEA. But she does a really good job of like, so it starts with beard science, and one of the things I like is like as they're working through these mysteries, like it does show the growth of their relationship, because you didn't get a lot of physical stuff in the first one. You saw, and like Jen lived a very repressed life before Cletus, and I like how it really like reinforces the HEA and shows a lot of character growth while also giving you really good mysteries. I really enjoy them. And it's kind of light. Like they're kind of punny and cute, and
Yeah.
I really enjoy them.
Um, so you're talking funny and cute, and this is lighter romance. It's a traditional and a little less steamy. Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q. Santino. The heroine stumbles upon a dead body, and she calls her mom and her aunties, and they help her bury the body or get rid of the body, but somehow the body ends up with her at a destination wedding. So it's a little Weekend at Bernie's kind of feel to it. And it's hilarious and it's madness. And if you've never read Dial A for the Aunties, I cannot recommend it enough. There's another book out, and I think a book 3 with these aunties are coming out. It's so funny. So funny.
Book 2 is 4 aunties and a wedding.
Yes. Okay. And it comes out 2024. Or is it out right now?
It comes out. Oh, no, it's out.
Oh, it's out. Okay. But I still think there's a third book. Anyway, she's a Latinx author, and they're just so funny. And the audiobooks are really cute too. So anyway.
The covers, adorable.
I would buy them just for the covers, to be honest.
For sure.
So yeah, Dial A for the Aunties is a little bit of a mystery because they've got a dead body they're carrying around with them.
That's amazing.
Okay, and I'm just gonna real quick give a couple authors and then let you guys do yours, and then we'll go to the next thing. If you aren't reading Aurora Rose Reynolds, Rena Morgan, because I cannot have a romantic suspense episode that I do not mention Rena Morgan, Julie Garwood, Nora Roberts, Meredith Wild, her book Hardwired. She's a hacker and he's a billionaire tech owner, and he hires her to help him figure out coding and stuff. And there's a mystery. And Sky Warren. So if you aren't, and I guess Maya Banks. So Julie Garwood, Nora Roberts, Meredith Wild, Aurora Rose Reynolds, Rena Morgan, Sky Warren, and Maya Banks. What are you even doing with your life? And then there's Sawyer Bennett's Codename, which we did talk about a little earlier. Okay.
I will say Sky Warren is also like on the very, very crazy town segment of romantic suspense. Extremely dark. Like, again, make sure if you have triggers, read the trigger warnings for these, because like a lot of people would like if you have trigger warnings, there's a lot in her books that would just like,
well, and she blurs the line between, like, she does a lot of age gap, and she blurs the line with anti-heroes and guardian and authority, but Heather, be warned, often her books are trilogies.
They are trilogies, and there's a lot of like, he has bought his woman at auction kind of thing. Like,
so many sex auctions. Many sex auctions.
Lots of them. Very dark.
But it's okay. They're really good.
They really are. They also give me the chills, like creepy town. I mean,
they're
level of
there's
town.
bonkers. I'm trying to think. It's like The Pawn, The Knight.
Yeah, that one is absolutely insane.
Like
where they're in the insane asylum and the guy is like orchestrated. They're
almost thriller. They're thriller because like they're insanity.
There's definitely a psychological element in them.
Yeah, oh, for sure. But they're very good stories, and a lot of times the audios are on Hoopla. So if you haven't read her, you can check her out there. I was going to say something. Oh, The Butcher and the Blackbird, which I haven't read yet, but it's on my Kindle. It's a dark romantic comedy. But actually, it says trilogy, but there's 3 different couples for the 3 books. This just got bought by Simon & Schuster. And Joe Arden does the audio for this book. So
I'm sold. So I think another author that is probably not a lot of people talk about, and I think they should, is Anna Blakely. She has the Risk series. So she actually has a lot of series, but if you're new to her, she just released a brand new series called Keeping His Promise, Eagle Nest Securities. It is on my Kindle, and it she is a phenomenal writer. I really like her. And she has pulled back some of her releases in the past just because she didn't feel like it was it wasn't the product she wanted to deliver. And so she's not a author who doesn't deliver books that she thinks are top notch. And so I respect an author that does
I
that.
need to read her because she's going to be at that knockout bash that we're going to next June in Louisville. She's there with Anna Hackett and Riley Edwards and Susan Stoker. So
she's really great, and she's very, very sweet. I really like her a lot.
I'm fairly certain Amanda ran away from her in Florida when she went to that signing in Florida.
She did.
We love you, Amanda. We're not laughing at you. We're laughing with you.
Right. Just because that's exactly what I would do. I'd be like, hi, I'm like obsessed with you. Bye.
Oh my God, you guys are ridiculous.
Okay, that is like how I am. Like I would be so worried I'd spend all that money and then I wouldn't even be able to talk to anybody.
This is why Jenny travels with me. She makes me do all the talking.
My husband asked, he goes, what are you going to do when you meet Sarah Bennett? I'm like, I'm probably not going to be able to speak because it just...
You know, it's so funny because I talk to her on the phone all the time. Like, she has pictures of Ollie. She's obsessed with Ollie. Like, we talk all the time, but I've yet to hang out with her in person. And yeah, kind of like you, it's going to be a moment of, okay, it's Sawyer Bennett. I love her.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there any other I'm sure that people who are listening, we might not have hit on your romantic suspense favorite author. Do not worry. I'm sure we'll be back in the future with a different roundup of different contributors because everybody rates a little different. I'm sure that Amanda and Leah's list would be, and Rachel would be very different than ours.
Probably.
Rachel would 1000% recommend Cynthia Eden. She has some really, like, you look at her
Leah
covers.
Loves her. Leah loves
you're like,
her.
These don't look like romantic suspense, but they're very, very good. Casey Lynn also is new that I've kind of dove into, and I really like her too.
Good to know. Good to know. Okay. You can find a list of all the books that we mentioned, or as best to our ability that we mentioned, on our On the Shelf show notes at buzzingabout.romance.com. Also, if you're not aware, we do have a Buzzing About Romance wiki that Amanda is the keeper of. And if you would ever have a question, I had someone send me a DM today on Instagram that said, hey, randomly, a couple weeks ago, I was listening to an episode and you mentioned a book about a silver fox. And in the previous series, were there parents? Can you tell me what book? And I was like, yes, I can tell you what book I was talking about. But if you ever have questions because you can't think of a title or we didn't clear, you can always check our website or seriously slide into our DMs and we will try to figure out what book we were talking about.
I also have a romantic suspense spreadsheet that I spent a stupid amount of time on. And so if you want it, I will share it with you. There's maybe 17 tabs with a reading order of these authors. So I'm happy to share. And you can make a copy of it.
Okay. I love you, Heather. I love you. Okay, so guess what, guys? Guess what time it is? It is Book of the Week. I hope at home, if you're listening, you are doing jazz hands and saying this with us. You know, especially like if you're running or something. Maya listens to us while she runs because she's getting ready to run the New York Marathon. I hope when you run, you do jazz hands while you listen to us.
I require it. Please do that.
But none of us are running the New York City Marathon. Not one of us. Okay, Lindsey, what is your book of the week?
Okay, like I said, I had to go all the way back to August to find one I hadn't recommended already. And it was Rootbound by Tara DeWitt. I was really surprised that I liked this book because it was making the rounds. And finally, I was like, I'm just going to read it. The cover's cute. It sounds like my kind of thing. It is a small town kind of cowboy romance. She is from basically the heroine in the book. She is just recently divorced. She's having a really hard time in life. and she's a photographer who's been contracted out to take pictures for basically a secret person's book. She's been doing these projects for this person for a while, so she takes on this job, and the job winds up being at her estranged father's ranch. So she goes out to the ranch to do the project, falls in love with the ranch hand, like learns a whole lot about who she is. It was just a really good book. I was really surprised. Because I didn't expect it. I did not expect it at all.
And those are a little slower burn, a little lower steam.
It was not that much.
Okay.
It's a little bit slower burn in that it's like 50% of the way through, but it's not really that slow burn.
Okay.
I mean, the book was independently written, and now it's been picked up for traditional publishing paperback. So yeah, if you read it and you want the paperback, good luck finding it. It's not out there. But yeah, I was surprised. It was spicier than I expected.
Okay.
And it was really cute. Like there were a lot of cute, funny moments. There was a lot of like chemistry and tension building and relationship development. There was a little bit of like enemies to lovers. Adverse. They just don't get along at first, but it's cute. It was good.
Okay. Heather, what's your book of the week?
My book of the week by Anna Hackett. It is book 2 in the Fury Brothers series. It is set in New Orleans, and that's a found family. So they're not biological brothers. They're like a found family of brothers. And the Colt is a bounty hunter. So he likes to catch the bad guys. He's also a single dad. And Macy is his office manager. He calls her his assistant, and she decided that she's the office manager because it wouldn't run without her.
There you go.
And she's very sassy, and I really like her. And the daughter is very sassy. And I'm 8 chapters in, and I'm probably not sleeping tonight.
I love sassy. Okay, earlier I said I was going to tell you one that had a romantic suspense element, but it was not romantic suspense. That book was Come Here With Me by Brooke Montgomery, but that is not my book of the week because I actually started a different book of the week, and I have to talk about it because I adore this human. So, Business Card Boyfriend by Krista Sandor. She is a jilted bride. She runs home to a small town to a cabin that was left to her by a great aunt. And the hero is a handyman, but she cannot fall in love with him. And he is so fucking grouchy. Like, Krista Sandor can write a grouchy. And if you've ever watched anything we've ever done with Krista is not a grouchy human. Like, she is like funny and totally full of humor, but she writes some of the grouchiest heroes. So everybody should check out Business Card Boyfriend. It comes out at the end of October. And I don't know. I love Krista Sandor. Okay. What, Heather?
The cover is adorable.
Isn't it? I got to help pick out the cover. I actually helped plot this series. Like, this is in my heart. Also, she went a little crazy on swag. So make sure you watch my social media this week because she sent me a swag box that is like next level because the town was founded by a paper company. And so she went heavy into the stationery.
She does do really good swag boxes. Like if she's selling them or giving them away, it is always if there's any giveaway related to Krista Sandor, just go all in because it is so incredible. Like the boxes that come are giant. I got one from Summer Reading Challenge, I think last year. It was amazing. It was beyond amazing.
So she is doing Readathon. She is our final author of Readathon the day after Thanksgiving. And she's like, I'm saving a box of Business Card Boyfriend that is going to have all the swag. Like she made a hat and a journal. So make sure you watch our social media for whenever Krista will be around. She's also doing Books, Brews, and Booze on the 20th, Friday the 20th. But this doesn't come out till the 22nd.
Love her. Love her.
She's just a joy. She's like one of those humans that you're just like, yeah, sometimes I think she's too nice to be my friend, but she's my friend. Okay, Patreon update. Welcome, new Patreon member Marisol. Welcome to the Hive. We are so excited to have you along. For those who get swag packs, they should have hit your mailbox over the last week. And sponsoring authors for October are Laura Lynn Page, Angelina M. Lopez, Mary Carr, and Michaela Smetzler. I shared some favorite titles of mine from each of these authors. Laura Lynn Page, her Dirty Sweet Duet. It is Shane East and Carly Robbins that do the narration. And there is this, in book 2, it's an age gap single dad romance. And close proximity. And there is this mutual masturbation scene in book 2 that is like one of the spiciest things I have ever read. And also it's Shane East, guys. Like,
yeah, I was like writing this down, like Shane East.
Okay, what is that again?
The Dirty Sweet Duet. It's 2 books. It's Dirty, I think it's Dirty Talker and Dirty Liar, or Sweet Liar. I don't know. It's Laura Lynn Page.
It's 2 books narrated by Shane East.
Yeah. So it's actually a little different. Book 1 is Shane East, and book 2 is, so Shane East reads book 1, but there is some duet monologue together where Carly Robbins comes in. And then in book 2, it's mainly Carly Robbins, and then Shane East comes in with dialogue.
But he's in both.
Yes. And she is a femme fatale. Like, she sets out to seduce him.
Love that.
So, it is worth checking out. Carolina and I did a quick shot of romance on both books. Probably February of 2022. So you can find those in the archive. Angelina M. Lopez, I actually am going to recommend her Lush Money. It's female billionaires in wine country. And they're really good. I mean, we talk about After Hours, but Lush Money by Angelina M. Lopez is also very, very good. Mary Carr, I've talked about this book multiple times. I love her books. She loves a throuple. So if you are into throuples, you should absolutely check out Mary Carr. Often they're male, female, male. And rarely do swords cross in hers. But her latest one, the swords do cross. But she has this hockey book that, and I think it's only like 250, 300 pages. It's called Making His Play. It's hockey, best friend's brother, and a Vegas wedding. Her best friend convinces her brother to go as her date to the wedding of her ex.
Love it.
And it's so good. It is so good. And also, if Mary Carr writes it, I read it. And Michaela Smetzler, of course, there's her Confidence of Wildflower series, but check content and trigger warnings or look for those reviews on my blog. But her Bad Boys Break Heart series is in Kindle Unlimited, and it's pretty good. It's angsty, though. She likes the angst. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking for heavy angst, check out Michaela Smetzler. All members of the Patreon get exclusive episodes along with perks like Buzzing Book Club. November book club guest author is author Zoe York, and we are reading Fearless at Heart. It's a second chance romance. He is a bush pilot, and I think she's a mechanic, or she owns the dock that he has to that he does his float plane flies into.
What is this book again?
Fearless at Heart by Zoe York. It's November's book club pick, Lindsay. It's like Lindsay doesn't read the emails from me.
I do.
It's okay, Lindsay. It's okay.
Most of the time.
It's small town.
I'm bad with email.
It's okay. It's small town Canada, and I actually have read book 1 in this series and book 2, and I really like it. It's 5 brothers, and they're a little wild, and I love them. Book
You had me at float plane.
well,
Same.
book 1, he is a firefighter, or no, paramedic, like a station chief, and she is a midwife that comes to their rural small town to start up a midwife practice with her partner, and he has a daughter who's 18, graduating high school, and finds out she's pregnant. So for the majority of the book, they can't get together because he is the father of her patient. And then it deals with the potential of a, like, what happens if it's an age gap and she still imagines herself having children. And he keeps talking about how now that he's raised his daughter, it's his turn to live a young life because he had his daughter as a teen also. So it's a real, and he raised his brothers. Anyway, I really like this series, and if you haven't read Zoe York, you should absolutely check it out. She also writes under Ainsley Booth and Chloe Main. If you're attending the HEA Readers event in Indianapolis, Indiana on November 3rd and 4th, please make sure you are following us on Instagram. We're planning a Buzzing About Romance meetup on Friday night and a game night on Saturday. I will also have a special listener swag at the table. So make sure you stop by and say hey and let me know that you listen to the podcast. And if you have not signed up for our newsletter, this is a great way to keep up to date to all our happenings. And we have our big yearly readathon happening November 24th. And we're getting ready to start Clear the TBR Challenge, which you can earn bookish prizes for moving books off your TBR. So if you read from your TBR, you have the chance for lots of cool bookish prizes. I have some autographed books. We're going to do a group read of Good Luck Charm by Helena Hunting, and I have signed copies of that book to give away. So it's absolutely worth hanging out with us and checking out our newsletter.
Just full disclaimer, my TBR has never shortened from these read-alongs. Like, I have cleared books off my TBR. I just wind up with like 3 times more added to.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. So
you know why we started Clear the TBR Challenge, right? Do you know the story behind this? So the very first year that Leah and I were on the podcast together, we were going to pick a book for every month, our top read of every month that was published that month. And I had months that I didn't have a top book for. And Leah's like, well, how are you going to make yourself read these and not just wander off? And I'm like, wait, if I make other people read them with me, then I won't wander because I'll have a deadline, right? And she's like, yeah, sure, whatever. So thus Clear the TBR Challenge was born. And that very first year in 2021, when I launched it, every single title in that year's read along were ones I was trying to figure out if they were going to be my top read for the year-end episode. So oftentimes the group read list, I ask everybody what authors are on your TBR that you want to get off or what titles. And if you guys don't tell me, then I'm just going to pick books up off my TBR and make you all read them with me.
I mean, usually that's not a bad plan.
I know, Jenny gives me too much power. She constantly says to me, I just read whatever Becky tells me to. I'm like,
I don't think I've ever gone wrong that way.
Well, that's nice to hear. Heather, I think we've had a couple together where we're like, what did we read?
Yeah. BTW, Reckless at Heart. I just looked it up. I somehow own it. So that's what I'm going to be reading.
I wonder if I own it too.
It was a free first in series. I think it's been... Zoe York is actually the one that's behind the Stuff Your Kindle days and programs. She's the one who created that like 4 or 5 years ago. So
I can blame her for the 3,000 books I have on my Kindle that I haven't read.
Absolutely. It's all Zoe York's fault. She'll be at book club in November. Make sure you yell at her then.
No, I'll be like, oh my God, thank you for
that. So yeah, she's like super smart too. She's like one of those authors that like knows publishing and is super smart. So Bring all your questions and you guys can ask Zoe instead of me.
Perfect.
Anyway, Lindsey and Heather, thank you so much for hanging out and chatting romantic suspense with me.
Anytime.
Until next time, everyone, happy reading.
Find us on Instagram at Buzzing About Romance or on Twitter at Buzzing Romance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.